Alright guys, so you assembled your PC, but what do you do next? There's a lot of videos on how to assemble a PC, but there's not that many that tell you what do you do after the assembly is done. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. Alright, so what we're going to need is the PC that you obviously built, and this is the PC that I recently built. You're going to need monitor so you can see what's going on with your PC. You're gonna need some kind of a input device. Like in this case, I'm using the Mac keyboard, and you're gonna need a mouse, obviously. Then we're gonna need any other PC that's not recently built that you've been using for a while, or any kind of a device that can read a USB stick. And it can be a laptop, it can be other PC, or maybe a tablet that has a USB port. So yeah, that's what we're gonna need. And the first thing to do, if you have some files on the stick, please make sure to delete the files and format the stick based on FAT32. It's usually the default option when you format a USB stick, and make sure it has at least 8 gigabyte of storage. So I'm going to be using my laptop for this video to download the Windows installation media and this 16 gigabyte stick. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is you want to connect all your peripherals like monitor, keyboard, and mouse to your PC that you're going to be installing Windows on, and you're just going to start the PC. And if everything is assembled correctly, it should load into BIOS. Or if you have anything like a USB media already inserted, it might go there into the installation. Instead, you can tap delete key to go into BIOS. Right now I don't have anything connected, so my PC loaded into BIOS. So the first thing you want to check is that you have all the hardware that you installed. So at this point I have a CPU which is AMD Ryzen 5 3600, the 6 core, so that is correct. Then my motherboard is MPG B550 Gaming Edge Wi-Fi. I have a memory which is 32 gigs, which is correct. And let's check the BIOS version. The BIOS version is 7C91AMS.100, and it's dated May 29th, 2020. So this is not the latest version of the BIOS. So normally you wouldn't need to update BIOS and you should be just fine. I prefer updating the BIOS to the latest version. And for this motherboard, if I were to use Ryzen 5000 series, I would have to update BIOS. I don't have to, but I prefer, it's my personal preference. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that. And after we flash BIOS, I'm going to show you how to download Windows installation media, and we're going to install Windows. After that, I'm going to show you how to bring your Windows up to date. And after we install all the Windows updates, we're going to go ahead and update all the necessary drivers like chipset, audio, graphics card driver, and so on. So for now, let's go ahead and I'm going to show you how to download the latest BIOS. In this case, it's MSI motherboard, so they have this option, which is M-Flash, which is a convenient way to update the BIOS. Another way I can flash the BIOS is, as you remember from my review of this MSI B550 Gaming Edge Wi-Fi motherboard, it has the BIOS flash button, which you can use as also a convenient way, but you can choose any way to flash your BIOS, but in this case, I'm just going to be using this M-Flash utility here in the UEFI. So let's go ahead and into your whatever you choose to use to download the BIOS and Windows installation media. In my case, I'm using my laptop. So I'm just going to go ahead and in Windows and in Google, type in MSI, or you can type in your motherboard I'm gonna go ahead to the manufacturer's website. You're gonna go ahead and click support. So this is a motherboard, so I'm gonna choose motherboard, and I'm gonna click downloads. This is for MSI. It might be different for your motherboard manufacturer, but basically it's the same steps, follow the same steps. So I'm gonna select desktop, series, QB Infinite Meta Series. Honestly, this is complicated, so let's just type in B550 Gaming Edge Wi-Fi. Here we're gonna click download, and we are on download page. And here you can see BIOS. So there are two versions of BIOS. The first one is beta version. I'm not gonna use beta version, even though it supports AMD Smart Access Memory. If I had if I had AMD's RX 6000 series graphics card, I would probably install this beta version just to take advantage of Smart Access Memory, considering if I had also Ryzen 5000 series CPU, but I have Ryzen 3000 series, so it won't help me anyway. So I'm gonna download the latest, most stable version, which is this one, 7C91V14 from November 4th. So yeah, I'm just gonna click download that. The download started and the download is done. So then you want to find your stick and you want to format it if it's not formatted. And as I said, the default file system FAT32 is the one you should go for. Please make sure to check quick format, and it should be done pretty quickly. And it's done. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna copy those. I'm gonna paste them here. All right, we're done downloading. All right. Now what you want to do, you want to take the USB flash drive and plug it into a USB port on your PC. And what we're going to do, we're going to click M Flash. This is for MSI. I know there are other manufacturers that make it easy to flash your BIOS. So I know that Gigabyte has also an easy option to flash your BIOS. So just check the manual for your motherboard, or just poke around and you're gonna find that out. So I'm gonna click M Flash, and system will auto reboot and enter. Do you want to enter flash mode? Yes. And it should boot into BIOS flash mode. All right, so we found our USB flash drive, and this is the only file that it recognizes, which is our version of the latest BIOS. So I'm gonna click on that. Are you sure to select this file? Yes, we're sure. And you see BIOS is updating. So during this time, please make sure that you have stable power supply, no outages, anything like that, because it's going to be critical not to lose power during BIOS installation, because it can help you avoid a lot of problems and save you a headache. So we're just going to wait for it to finish, and after that it should reboot, and we should be seeing the new BIOS. So we'll wait for that. Yeah, one thing to mention as well, don't shut down or restart the system, just like it says here. And don't try to plug out the USB stick or anything like that. Alright, looks like the BIOS is done updating, and the system is going to restart now. And we should see the new BIOS. Yep, so as you can see, our BIOS version is now E7C91AMS.140, and the BIOS is from October 29, 2020. So we got one of the latest versions of BIOS now. And yeah, if you take a look here, we can see that our CPU runs at 3.60 gigahertz, which is the base clock for my Ryzen 5 3600, but DDR speed is running at the base clock of 2133 megahertz. So this is not running at advertised speed, and later on I'm going to show you how to get the most out of your memory. So you get the advertised speed. Like in my case, it's 3200 megahertz. But before we do that, we don't want to touch anything here. We just want to leave it as is to have the most stable system to use for our Windows installation. We can play with all the stuff like basically bringing the memory speed to the advertised speed, or playing with the fans, or all that other stuff we're going to do later after we install Windows. So, and that's going to be the next step. The next step is, let's go ahead and I'm going to show you where to get the Windows 10 installation media. So again, I'm going to use the same stick I used for BIOS update. I'm just going to format it again and use this for the Windows installation media. You can do the same, or you can use a new USB stick if you have another one that is at least 8 gigabyte of memory. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to format my USB stick so I can reuse it for Windows installation. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, format is done. Now, what you can do, you can type in Windows 10. Actually, I already typed it in. Installation media, and you're gonna click the first link, or I'm gonna give you the link down in the description below. You can use that one. There's gonna be a direct link to this page. And what you're gonna find is this Create Windows 10 Installation Media Download Tool Now. So you're gonna click Download Tool Now, and it's gonna download this executable file. So you're gonna click on that. I'm gonna say yes. It's getting ready. Just a moment. Yes, this laptop is fast. Very fast. Ooh. That's exactly why I'm building this one. Because this laptop is so fast. Finally, so we read the agreements, clicked accept. All right, we can wait. We can wait, because why not, huh? Why not? Okay, cool. So now we can see two options. Upgrade this PC now. This would be if you're, for instance, upgrading from Windows 7 to Windows 10 on the current PC. But that's not the case. We're installing a Windows 10 on a completely new build. So we're going to click Create Installation Media, USB flash drive, DVD, for another PC, okay. And we're going to click Next. So select Language, Architecture, and Edition. Use recommended, no, we don't want that, in case you're on something else and it gives you a recommended option for this one. And honestly, I don't understand why it gives you that option in the first place if you select Create Installation Media and not upgrade this PC. It doesn't make sense, but okay, you're gonna do this. You're gonna say Windows 10 and it's 64-bit, and we're gonna click Next. And what we're gonna do here, there are two options. Use a file. I don't know who uses it anymore, but we're gonna do it with a USB flash drive. Of course, you can do that if you have DVD burner, but why would you? I mean, with the USB flash drive, it's so much faster. So just select USB flash drive, click Next. Select this, our drive, and click Next, and download in Windows 10. So it's gonna take a while, and yeah, after the download is done, I'm gonna show you what we're gonna do next. While we wait for Windows Installation Media to download, I'm going to tell you what we're going to do before we start installing Windows. So the first thing you want to do is you want to check that you have, it is recommended, it's not necessary, but when we're going to install Windows, in the installation tool, it's going to be really hard to distinguish between different drives. So for instance, if you're gonna have like SSDs, a bunch of SSDs, bunch of HDDs, or a couple M.2s, it's really gonna be hard to distinguish that. So if you can, please disconnect all the other drives and leave only the one that you're gonna be installing Windows to. So for instance, in my case, I only have one M.2 card, and I'm just gonna be installing Windows on my M.2 card. But in your case, you might have like even worse. You might have transferred some HDDs or SSDs from your previous computer to this one, and when you're going to be choosing, by accident, you might choose this drive as the installation media for Windows. And what is it going to do if you have any files like videos, photos, or maybe games? It's going to override those files. It's going to format the whole disk, and it's going to install Windows, and you're going to lose your files, and you don't want to do that. So first, please make sure, if you can, disconnect all other drives, so it's going to be easier for us to choose where to install Windows 2. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to disconnect all the internet cables or like Wi-Fi if you have, because it's going to be easier for you to disable all the spyware that Windows is going to offer you, like location tracking, Cortana help. We're not going to need that, and I'm going to show you how to disconnect them when you install it, and later on we'll connect it to the internet when we're going to update the Windows and all that stuff. So um, two things. First, make sure to disconnect all the other drives, and second, make sure no internet connection. That's the preferred method. Of course, you can do that. You can do, if you want, if you don't mind, you can use all that spyware, but I personally don't like that, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a bit. All right, so we're at 98% installing our Windows installation media. Let's wait maybe a couple more minutes, and then we're going to start. When it says your USB flash drive is ready, just click finish. And let's check it's there. And we can see the installation files are on our USB drive. So we can start. Before we start, let's go ahead and check in the BIOS that we don't have any other drives connected. That way we know that it's going to install Windows to the drive that you want to install it to. Like in my case, I only have M.2 XPG Game S11 Pro 1 gig. That's the one that I have. If you have any other, please go ahead and disconnect it so it wouldn't install it, because otherwise it's going to be really hard to choose from the Windows installation tool. It's going to be really hard to distinguish which is the correct drive. So I would recommend you have an only one, and you can check in BIOS if you have only one drive available. So as I said, we're not touching anything, we're not playing with any fan speeds, we're not playing with the extreme memory profiles yet. So we're just going to go ahead, take our USB stick, plug it in to our PC. So now that I have the USB stick in, what I'm going to do, I'm going to click, you haven't made any changes, save configuration, exit, yes. The system should restart, and we should be taken to the Windows installation at this point. Yep, so here we go. Let's go ahead and select our language, time and currency, United States, keyboard, United States. I'm gonna click next, and we're gonna click install now. Since it's a fresh installation, we're not repairing our broken computer, we're just installing the fresh version. So I'm gonna hit install now, and setup is starting. Again, please make sure you don't have any internet connection at this point. Activate. So if you have product key, you can enter product key. No, if you don't have, you can just say I don't have a product key at the moment. But I mean, I have a product key, but I'm not gonna enter it at this point. So I'm just gonna say I don't have a product key. And what am I gonna do is, usually there are multiple versions, but usually you would select either Windows 10 Home or Windows 10 Pro. I have a key for Windows 10 Pro, so that's what I'm gonna install. I'm gonna hit next. Yeah, we read the agreements. I read all the agreements. You're gonna hit next. Which type of installation you want? Upgrade, install Windows and keep files, settings, and applications. Well, since this is a fresh system, you can do either one, but let's do custom. So where do you want to install Windows? This is the only drive, and that's what I've been talking about. It just says drive 0 unallocated space. It doesn't tell me which drive it is. It doesn't tell me that it's my M.2 drive. It just says drive 0, unallocated space. So if you have multiple, it's going to be kind of hard to figure out which one, and you don't want to override anything or wipe anything out. So better make sure and disconnect everything, and just knowing that this is the drive that you want to install it to. So this is selected. I'm just going to hit next, and installation is started. So after this is done, we're going to make sure that we're going to update everything to the latest Windows version before we can start installing drivers. Because some drivers require a certain version of Windows, and normally the latest drivers and the latest hardware, like in my case I have RTX 3060 Ti, it's going to require the latest NVIDIA drivers that, since it's the new hardware, it might require the latest Windows update to have the latest Windows drivers installed for this graphics card. So that's what we're gonna do. Now let's wait until it's installed, and later on we're gonna go and check for updates, because normally this is not the latest version of Windows. It's gonna have multiple updates, and we're gonna have to do a couple of times over and over updated Windows. And I'm just gonna show you once this is done. We're almost done, and now the system is going to restart. Alright, so the system has restarted, and the first thing that you're gonna do is you're gonna select your region. So in my case, United States, so I'm gonna click yes. Is this the right keyboard layout? US is my keyboard. Select the keyboard that the country that you're from, so you're gonna hit yes. What are the second keyboard layout? No, I'm gonna skip that for now. Let's connect you to a network. I'm gonna click I don't have internet. And Windows is gonna tell you there is more to discover when you connect to the internet, blah blah blah. Well, I'm gonna continue with the limited setup, and that's what you're gonna click. Who's going to use this PC? So I'm gonna put my name. All right. Super memorable password. No password for me. Alright, and now privacy settings. So this is all that spyware that Windows is pushing on you, like speech recognition, location, diagnostics, find my device, and whatnot. Advertising. So technically, what you're gonna do normally, you would just do this. Nope, 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 and nope. Alright? Set. Let Cortana. Nope, we don't need Cortana. Might take a little bit here, but yeah, we're just gonna wait until it's finally loaded. And normally at this point, Windows is already gonna have some basic drivers installed, like your Ethernet driver, your Wi-Fi driver, your chipset driver, just the basic stuff for Windows to work. And what we're gonna do after we update the Windows, we're gonna go ahead and install all the latest drivers for your chipset, audio, graphics card, and whatnot. So maybe later. Yep, so we're loaded into Windows. Now what you're gonna do you're gonna go ahead and connect your internet. If you have the Ethernet cable, you don't have a Wi-Fi, you're just gonna plug in your Ethernet cable. In my case, I have Wi-Fi, so I'm just gonna see. Yep, we have the driver for that. So I'm just gonna connect to the Wi-Fi. I'm gonna enter the key, and I'm gonna be back in a bit. All right. So I am connected to my Wi-Fi, and here, oh, look at that. We already have a notification that we're setting up Mystic Light. Mystic Light is the software for MSI motherboards that helps you connect your RGB lights or anything that's connected to the addressable RGB port. In my case, this is gonna be my fans, my memory, the RGB around the chipset. So we're gonna skip that for now. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead to search and we're gonna type update. I'm gonna click check for updates. And we're gonna click check for updates. As you can see, there is a bunch of updates available. So we're gonna wait for those to download because, as I mentioned earlier, we need to update Windows first before we go into install any of the latest drivers, because some of the latest drivers might require you to have the latest Windows update, or some features might not work unless you update to the latest Windows update. So that's what you want to do. You want to update Windows first, and after that you're going to install the latest drivers. So we're going to wait for all this stuff to download, and this might take several tries. We're going to restart now. We're going to restart it after all of this is done, and then we're going to check again for updates until all of the updates are installed. So let's do that. Alright, the updates are done. We're going to click restart now, and then we're going to check for updates again and see if there are any other updates that we need to install, and we're going to do it all over again as many times as we need. Alright, so the Windows has restarted and we're gonna do updates again. Let's go check for updates. Updates. And more updates. So we're gonna wait for this to download and install. And we're gonna restart the system again. Alright, looks like we're done. And yeah, at this point, Windows should be up to date. Sign in. At this point, Windows should be up to date. So what we're gonna do is we're going to download another browser, because Edge is good, but I just prefer to use Chrome or Firefox, so that's the first thing I'm gonna do. I'm gonna install, let's say Firefox, so Chrome download. Download Chrome for Windows, yes. We'll set up everything later. For now, we're going to install the latest drivers, and we're going to start probably with our chipset. So what we can do is we can go to MSI in Google. I'm gonna hit downloads. gonna click downloads, motherboard. I'm just gonna type sign B550 gaming edge Wi-Fi. Over here, I'm gonna hit download, and I'm gonna click driver, and we're gonna select Windows, our operating system Windows, and here we have system and chipset drivers. So we have AMD chipset driver version 210.26.336 from December 11th, looks like. So you can install the chipset driver from AMD directly, but what I noticed is that, let me show you, that if I go to AMD and I'm gonna click on drivers and support, and I'm gonna select chipsets, AM4 socket AM4 B550, submit. What is it gonna do? It's gonna offer you not the latest version. The latest version is actually on the motherboard manufacturer's website. Maybe for you it's gonna be different. Please check. But for me, the revision number here is lower, and the release date is earlier, and the latest date is actually here, and this version is higher, 210.26.336 compared to 210.13.408. So I'm just gonna download it from here. So check for your motherboard manufacturer. Maybe it's gonna be different, but for me, I just went straight to MSI, and I'm gonna download the AMD chipset driver, the latest driver for B550 chipset. So I'm just gonna hit download. And while we're here, let me onboard drivers. We don't need that. We're gonna need the latest Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and Ethernet drivers. So I'm gonna download all of this, and I'm gonna download the latest audio driver. All right, RAID driver. I'm not gonna need that. So show in Finder. I'm gonna do the chipset driver first. So we go ahead and actually I'm just gonna do it like this. Extract the file from zip archive and the chipset drivers. Hit yes. So basically now what we're going to do, unzip all the installation files for the drivers and install the drivers. As simple as that. So what is it going to say here? AMD Riser power plant, and basically a bunch of other drivers. So you just click install and wait for installation to finish. After that, it might restart, it might not. We'll see what's going to happen. As you can see, I've already got the pop-up that a restart required after the installation. So we're going to do that after we install the other drivers, unless it forces me to restart, but I think that's not going to be the case. Okay, yeah, close. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to install the Wi-Fi driver. Next, reinstall. Yes. Next, Bluetooth driver, audio driver, and Ethernet driver. Alright, so now I'm downloading the NVIDIA drivers. So what you're going to do is you're going to type in NVIDIA and then you're gonna go to the first link, drivers, GeForce drivers. You're gonna select your graphics card. You're gonna start search, and you're gonna download the driver that is offering the latest version of the driver that is offered. For me, it's this one, 460.89. So once the download is done, I'm gonna install it, and that's gonna be all for the basic drivers that we need for the system to run. Unless you're gonna need something else, then you gotta check out for what else you're gonna be working with. But these are the basic drivers for a computer to operate properly. So let's wait for that to download. Yes. Extraction path. We can leave it there. So there are two options: NVIDIA graphics driver and GeForce Experience, or NVIDIA graphics driver. So what basically is, you would normally choose the NVIDIA graphics driver, but if you want, you can also install GeForce Experience. GeForce Experience basically, what I use it for my laptop, and what it does is it automatically checks for the latest NVIDIA driver for you and notifies you if there is a latest driver available. And I find it useful, but if you decide to, you can just go ahead and go with the graphics driver. But I'll install with the GeForce Experience. So I'm gonna hit agree and continue, and you can do express or custom. So I'm gonna show you one more thing. Like technically right now I can do express, but just to show you, there is a custom option, and I can click next. So what is it gonna do? Is gonna install all these graphics driver, G audio driver, NVIDIA GeForce Experience, Physics X system software. If you were to update this driver, I would do perform clean installation, and next time I'm gonna update it. That's how I'm gonna do it, perform clean installation. But since we have a fresh system, we don't need to do that. So we can just uncheck it, and I'm just gonna hit next. If you don't do fresh installations, what basically is gonna happen is gonna install, check for the difference between the code for the new driver and the code for the previous driver, and it's going to install those differences on top. And when you stack a lot of differences on top, sometimes it might not work properly, or some issues might occur. So it's better to perform the clean installation. What basically is going to happen is going to delete the current driver and install the new one. And this is a better way to install your driver instead of stacking up changes on top of each other. So we can see that NVIDIA control panel got installed, where we can set up our preferences for the graphics card. And what it says, create shortcut for NVIDIA GeForce Experience. No, I don't need the shortcut. Launch the experience. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to hit close. And that's it. We installed the basic driver. So we installed the chipset, the Bluetooth, the Wi-Fi, audio driver, Ethernet driver, and our graphics card driver for NVIDIA. So now I'm gonna restart the system, and I'm gonna restart it in BIOS. That way I'm gonna show you what to do next and how to get maximum out of your memory, because right now memory is running at the base clock of 2133 megahertz, but the memory that I have is supposed to run at 3200 megahertz. And it's going to be the case with any memory that you get. It's probably going to run at the base clock all the time. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So what you're going to do, you're going to hit restart. But before you hit restart, I want you to hold shift button That way when I hit restart right now, it's gonna offer me options to choose from, and that way we can make it restart into BIOS instead of hitting delete key all the time to get into BIOS. We're just gonna go ahead and click troubleshoot right here, advanced options, UEFI firmware settings, and then we're gonna hit restart. And now when the system restarts, it's gonna load into BIOS. Now as you can see, it loaded into BIOS. So, and our memory speed is right 2133 megahertz, as you can see. So, but we want to get the best out of our memory because we paid for it. So we want to get the best. So what we can do, if you click on memory, you can see that it says XMP Profile 1 DDR4 3200 megahertz. So if we enable XMP Profile 1, our memory now is going to run at 3200 megahertz. And for you, if you have a different kind of motherboard, usually they have the same thing, but you're just gonna look for extreme memory profile. That's what helps you. The way you use for overclocking, and that's what we're doing right now, bring this memory up to 3200 megahertz, basically overclocking. So just check with your motherboard manual or just poke around and you're gonna figure it out. So I selected the XMP profile. So the CPU stays at 3.60 gigahertz, and the memory speed is gonna go faster now. So XMP disabled to profile 1, I'm gonna say yes. And now when when the Windows loads, our memory should be running at 3200 megahertz. Alright, the system restarted, so now if I'm gonna go ahead and by the way, to open the menu, you're just gonna click Escape Shift Control at the same time, in case you don't know, and then you're gonna click Performance, and if you select Memory, you're gonna see that the speed is now 3200 megahertz. So now our memory runs at the advertised speed, and that's what we want. Alright, and we're done with the fresh PC setup. So if you find this video useful and informative, please hit the like button and subscribe for more. If you have any tips or tricks on how to set up, or maybe I missed something, please go ahead and drop the comment below. That's always welcome. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.